Hey guys, tonight we're heading into the cold. Really cold. The kind of cold that seeps into your bones, steals the feeling from your fingers, and cracks your lips open like old leather. Tonight we're trudging through the long, brutal winters of the Middle Ages to see how peasants, poor, underfed, and mostly forgotten, somehow made it through when the snow fell, the winds howled, and death waited patiently by every hearth. You're about to step into a thatched hut with no insulation, a fire that barely burns, and a family that's been rationing the same turnip for 4 days. And yes, you probably wouldn't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The wind is already howling when you step outside. It cuts across the muddy path between cottages like a knife carrying flecks of snow and ice on its breath. The ground beneath your feet is frozen hard, no give, no softness, just cracked dirt glazed with a brittle sheen of frost. You draw your patched wool cloak tighter around your shoulders, but the chill slips through the seams and wraps around your chest. It's not even the dead of winter yet. Just late autumn, the warning period. When the leaves are gone, the animals grow scarce, and everyone's eyes start drifting toward the sky, counting clouds, fearing storms. You return to your hut, shoulders hunched, hands burning from the cold. Inside, it's no better. The fire in the hearth is more ember than flame. Your wife is hunched beside it, fanning it gently, trying to coax one more hour of warmth from a few damp twigs. The children sleep close together under the thin wool blanket, their breath misting in the cold air. You have 2 options: stay in bed wrapped in every scrap of cloth you own, or get moving. Warmth, after all, comes from movement. You choose the second. Your boots are stiff with frost. You stamp them on the earthen floor and flex your toes until the blood stings. Then you begin your morning ritual, stirring the coals, blowing on the fire, unwrapping a small cloth bundle that holds the last of yesterday's barley bread. The bread is hard. You dip it in a cup of hot water, barely more than steam, and a few mint leaves to soften it. This is breakfast. There's no meat, no eggs. The hens stopped laying weeks ago. You're saving what grain remains for planting, and every root in the cellar is wrapped like a treasure. Your wife pulls her cloak around her and joins you. She has the same look she always has in early winter, tight-lipped, focused, and slightly hollow-eyed. You both know what's coming. Not the cold itself that's already here. What comes next is hunger, illness, and the cruel length of time. Winter doesn't arrive all at once. It creeps, and it never ever leaves quickly. You check the pantry, a loose plank in the wall with a cloth curtain. Inside, 2 turnips, 1 small jar of pickled leeks, a bag of beans, a cloth-wrapped wedge of aged barley bread, and a string of dried garlic. Not bad, you think, but not enough. Today's task is firewood, always firewood. You've already burned the easy pieces, the branches from the edge of the field, the windfall near the pig pen. Now you need to go deeper into the forest. Technically, it's the Lord's wood. Legally, you're not allowed to take anything that's not already fallen. But hunger and cold don't care about laws, and neither do you. You take your hatchet sling, your sack over your shoulder, and kiss your wife's cheek before heading out. The cold bites at your skin with every step. Your breath fogs and freezes in your beard. The forest looms ahead, its branches skeletal and still. Inside the tree line, the snow is lighter, shielded by the canopy. You move from tree to tree, eyes scanning for dead limbs, loose bark, anything dry. You find a few. Snap, snap, snap. The sound echoes loud and brittle. You gather what you can, then drag a heavier limb toward the clearing, planning to saw it later into stove-length pieces. You hear a rustle behind you. A deer, no. Just a raven flapping from one bare branch to another. It stares at you with black, unblinking eyes. You nod at it superstitiously. Some say ravens bring messages. Others say they're bad omens. You've stopped believing in either. Winter brings all the signs you need. By midday, your fingers are numb, but your sack is full. You trudge home, feet crunching on frozen leaves, muscles aching from the weight. Inside, the fire is alive again, small but dancing. Your wife has boiled water, added a spoonful of crushed barley, and is stirring in strips of dried greens. The children sit beside her, wide-eyed, waiting. You add a few sticks to the fire and drop your wood by the hearth to dry. Then you collapse onto the bench, stretching your hands toward the heat. The stew will be ready soon. It's not a meal. Not really. Just warmth in a bowl. But warmth is enough for now. After you eat, you seal the windows with rags and clay to keep out the drafts. The wind is rising. Tonight will be colder. You move the straw bedding closer to the hearth. Everyone will sleep there tonight, huddled together like animals in a den. As darkness falls, you listen to the wind pressing against the walls. The fire pops. The children murmur in their sleep. You sit up a little longer, feeding the flames, holding the night at bay, one stick at a time. Tomorrow will be colder. You already know. The wind howls through the night like a wounded beast, and even in sleep you feel it pressing, creeping, clawing at the edges of the hut. It slips through cracks, no matter how tightly you stuffed the rags. At some point in the dark hours, the fire burned down again, and the cold seeped into the straw bedding, stiffening your joints and settling in your lungs like a weight. You wake with a cough, not deep, but sharp, and that familiar pain just behind your ribs. You push off the blanket carefully. Every movement pulls against cold, stiffened muscles. Your wife is still asleep, her face half covered, her breath shallow and foggy in the air. The children lie like bundled lumps under the shared cloth, their limbs tangled in each other. You kneel by the hearth and rake through the ashes with a stick, searching for the faintest glow. There. Still alive. You feed it straw, then twigs, then a sliver of fatwood from the stash you keep hidden in the wall, reserved for mornings like this, when your fingers don't want to work and your spirit needs quick fire. The kindling catches and the room begins to glow. Your first act of the day is simple: survive the morning. You warm water and steep a pinch of mint in it. Not enough to flavor, but enough to warm the cup in your hands. You tear a piece from the hard loaf and dunk it, chewing slowly, listening to the wind outside. It will be like this for days. You know the pattern first, the hard frost, then the endless wind, then the snow. Not the pretty kind, but the kind that buries and freezes and breaks roofs. The village won't stir for another hour. But already you hear the groaning creak of another door opening down the lane, someone else rising to fight the same cold. No one speaks in the early winter mornings. Words take energy. Instead, you nod at one another. When your paths cross, your breaths streaming out like ghosts. After your wife wakes, she boils what's left of the barley and beans in water, seasoning it with a clove of garlic. The children wake to the scent, and that alone is enough to make them shuffle toward the hearth with bright eyes and quick steps. The youngest laughs once, and the sound startles the silence like a bird bursting from a hedge. You eat in near silence, just the scrape of spoons and the occasional murmur of thanks. The broth isn't enough to fill anyone, but it's hot, and it stays in the body longer than you expect. After the bowls are licked clean and stacked, it's time for work. You wrap your cloak tighter and venture out again. The forest waits. The firewood you gathered yesterday is already half gone, devoured by the night. You bring your hatchet and the cart, this time planning to drag a fallen branch you saw yesterday, thick and old, but dry beneath the bark. A prize in this weather. The walk is slow. Every breath cuts your throat. Your toes ache inside your boots, and you can't feel your fingers after the first 20 minutes. But you push through. You always do. You reach the tree and begin your work, chopping slowly, conserving energy. The blade bites again and again. Wood chips scatter and vanish into the frost. You work until sweat begins to chill your back. Then you lash the branch to the cart and pull it home, your legs shaking, your hands blistered. You think of the warmth it will bring. That thought is all that matters. Back in the hut, your wife is baking flatbread flour mixed with water and a spoon of rendered fat from the sheep bones you boiled 2 weeks ago. It's barely enough to grease the stone, but it does. The bread sizzles and pops as it cooks, the smell sharp and earthy. You sit and eat steam rising from the torn pieces. No one speaks. There's no need. This is a moment of peace. A moment to remember when the wind is battering the world outside, and you are here inside, fed alive. Later, you all work together. The children gather snow from outside, melting it for water. Your wife stitches a tear in the oldest boy's cloak. You patch the leak in the roof with fresh clay and straw pressed tight and sealed with a prayer. The smallest child plays quietly, dragging a carved bit of wood across the floor, pretending it's a horse. The day passes slowly. Time thickens in winter. Without fields to till or animals to tend, the hours become heavy. You measure them by how long the firewood lasts, how many times you have to turn the bread to keep it from burning, how long it takes for the pot to boil. When evening comes, the sky turns orange for 5 short minutes, then gray again. Darkness falls early. You light a tallow candle, the wick sputtering in the cold air, and set it near the wall to reflect more light into the room. Supper is soup again, but thicker tonight, made with a knob of root vegetable saved from last harvest. You crumble the last piece of hard cheese into it, the rind sharp and sour. It melts slowly, flavoring the whole pot. A rare richness. You watch the children's eyes widen. This is a feast to them. You eat slowly, stretching the moment, letting the warmth seep into your belly, your chest, your fingers. After dinner, you sit together in the dark. The candle burns low. The fire pops softly. Your wife begins to hum a lullaby, one her mother taught her during another long winter. You close your eyes and let the melody carry you. Outside, the wind rises again. But inside, for now, the walls hold. The fire burns. The food is gone, but it was good. You fall asleep wrapped in warmth that isn't just from fire or bread, but from knowing that today you won again. Tomorrow the cold will return, but so will you. The cold has a sound. You know it now as surely as you know your own heartbeat. It's not just the wind or the crunch of frost beneath your boots. It's the silence between. That stillness in the air when the snow stops falling and even the animals go quiet. That's the sound that greets you when you wake. The fire is low again, only a faint orange glow in the ash. You're careful not to move too quickly. The warmth that built up under the blankets overnight is the only buffer between you and the air outside. One wrong motion, one sharp gust through the wall, and it's gone. But eventually you must rise, always. You move slowly, easing the blanket off, sliding your feet into boots that never quite dry, pulling your cloak over your shoulders. Your breath leaves your mouth in slow clouds, condensing on the inside of the door. You touch the clay chinking on the wall, feeling for any gaps. Still sealed for now. The snow must be deep outside. It's muffling everything. You reach for the bundle of wood you dragged home yesterday. The logs are dry now, brittle at the ends, perfect for fire. You set two on the coals and blow gently until the embers stir and catch. The crackle is like a promise. Light, heat, hope. The orange glow stretches wider across the hut, casting soft shadows on your sleeping family. Your wife stirs beside the children, her hand reaching out instinctively toward the warmth. You offer her a nod, and she returns it. It's too cold for morning words. Instead, you move through the unspoken routine. Heat water, steep herbs, soak bread. Breakfast is weak again. Barley water with a few crushed greens from the storage jar. The bread has gone stiff, and it cracks when broken. You soften it in the cup chew slowly, trying to remember the feel of soft loaves, the kind with a crumb. But that was a different season. Another world. The children eat in silence. They're not too young to understand now. Winter teaches them faster than words ever could. The littlest frowns as she bites into a crust, but says nothing. She knows better. After the meal, you check the stores again. Inventory. Routine. It helps you feel in control, even if it's a lie. 3 onions, half a turnip, 2 jars of dried beans. The garlic braid is down to 5 cloves. The salt pouch is low. No more cheese. No more dried fruit. That was gone days ago. But there's still flour. Enough for a week. Maybe. Today is repair day. You stay indoors conserving heat. The wind is biting even through the walls, and snow has piled halfway up the shutter. You take the time to patch your wife's shoe, re-wax the seams in your coat, and rebind the kindling stack. You mend a crack in the water pot with melted resin and cloth. These small acts are armor, not against the cold exactly, but against despair. Your wife grinds the last of the dried mint with her stone mortar, crushing it fine, mixing it into warm water. It becomes a kind of tea, a thin, fragrant trick for the body. The children sip it like it's a feast. Later, you hear a knock on the door. Not loud, more like a scrape, a polite warning against intrusion. You open it carefully, letting in only a sliver of cold. It's your neighbor, old Bran. He looks worse than yesterday, cheeks sunken cloak, damp hands trembling. He holds up a bundle. Kindling. Not much. Trade, he rasps. You step back and let him in. He huddles by the fire while you inspect the sticks. Dry. Good. In return, you offer half a loaf and a ladle of soup. He takes it in silence, nodding. His eyes flicker toward the children, but he doesn't speak. You talk for a few minutes. He says the south wall of his hut is leaking snow, that he's out of straw, that his wife's cough has returned. You nod, knowing there's little you can do. He leaves quietly, a trace of snow melting where he sat. You close the door, not because you want to, but because you have to. That night you make soup. Real soup. You slice one of the onions into the pot, saute it in a spoonful of fat from the sheep bones you rendered weeks ago. You add water beans and turnip, letting it all simmer until the scent fills the hut. The children perk up. Your wife's eyes close briefly as she tastes the broth from the ladle. You eat slowly, carefully. It's not a rich soup, but it's warm and it carries you farther than you thought it could. Afterward, your wife sings, not loudly, just under her breath, barely more than a hum. An old song from the coast where her grandmother was born. The words are lost, but the melody remains. You listen as you mend a glove one stitch at a time. The candle is burning low, and you still have half a loaf for tomorrow. That feels like wealth. You reach for your youngest and wrap her in your arms, drawing her close against your chest as she sleeps. The wind hasn't stopped. It probably won't. But your walls held. Your fire lived. And tonight, no one went to bed hungry. You know the cold is waiting, but for now you have everything you need. The cold returns with teeth. You wake to a silence so absolute, so dense that it presses against your ears. Not even the fire is crackling. That's the first sign something's wrong. You sit up slowly, careful not to disturb the fragile layer of warmth beneath the blanket. The hut is darker than usual. You squint toward the hearth. The fire is dead, not smoldering, not embers. Gone. You rise quickly, teeth already chattering, and cross to the hearth in 3 long strides. The floor stings your soles through the thin hide of your boots. You crouch low, fingers trembling as you prod the ashes. Nothing. Just gray, dry dust. The fire didn't survive the night. Neither did the warmth. Your breath fogs thickly in the air. You can see it drifting upward, swirling around the beams. A thin rime of ice has crept along the edges of the walls, painting the clay seams white. Your wife's breath curls out in shallow puffs, her arms wrapped tightly around the children who are still asleep barely. You know what this means. You need fire. Now. You grab your cloak, the one with the torn shoulder, and wrap it around you as you bolt out the door. The cold hits you like a slap, raw, dry, sharp. The snow has deepened overnight. It swallows your legs to the knees. The sky is flat, colorless, heavy with more snow still waiting to fall. You trudge toward the shed behind the house where you stacked what you thought was a week's worth of wood. You pull the door open. Empty. You cursed yourself yesterday for not checking. You meant to. But time blurred and the cold distracted, and now you have nothing but frozen branches, brittle twigs, and what you can scavenge. You wade through snow, crossing the back field, heading toward the tree line. You know where a dead tree fell last spring. You cut some of it then, but the base still lies untouched, dry, splintered, perfect for burning. The tree is where you left it, half buried under a drift. You pull your hatchet from your belt and begin to hack. The blade slips on the frozen bark at first, but then it bites deep. Again. Again. The rhythm returns. You carve the trunk into chunks, gathering them in a pile, your fingers burning with the effort. Your breath is shallow now, and every exhale feels thinner than the last. By the time you drag a load back to the house, your legs are numb, and your face is stinging. You don't stop. You drop the logs by the hearth and begin splitting them with shaking hands. Your wife joins you silently, eyes wide, hands ready. Together you build the fire again, layer by layer, until the first lick of flame catches on the resin-soaked wood. It grows, slowly, then brightly. The warmth returns like an old friend who took too long to arrive. The children begin to stir. One coughs a raspy, dry sound that makes you and your wife lock eyes for a moment longer than you mean to. You say nothing. There's nothing to say. But the worry settles in your chest alongside the heat. Once the fire is strong, you melt snow in a pot, filtering it with a cloth to remove the bits of bark and debris. Your wife adds the last of the beans and a pinch of salt. The soup today will be thin but hot. That alone is enough. You sit together and eat bowls wrapped in cloth to keep your fingers warm as you hold them. Every spoonful is precious. The children eat quickly, the steam curling around their cheeks like fog. You blow gently on each bite, trying to slow the moment, trying to stretch it. After the meal, you return to the forest. Not because you want to, because you have to. You need more wood. Always more. You mark the fallen tree in your mind, only half of it gone, and you begin hauling fresh logs to a dry patch beneath the shed. It takes most of the day. Your muscles tremble from the cold and the effort, but by evening you've stacked enough to last a few more days. When you return to the hut, your wife greets you with a cup of hot broth and a nod of respect. Not praise, not thanks, just the kind of acknowledgement that means something more. We're still here. Supper is a small miracle. She found a crust of cheese you'd both forgotten, hardened sharp, tucked behind a sack of dried roots. She's grated it into the soup just enough to change the flavor, to give the illusion of richness. You taste it, and your heart lifts, just a little. After the bowls are cleaned, you bring the straw mattress closer to the fire. Everyone gathers near, huddled beneath the one heavy blanket. You lie down last, pressing your back against the wall to trap the heat in the room. The candle burns low beside you. The shadows stretch long. The wind begins again. You listen. It's different now, no longer angry, but steady, almost like breathing. You close your eyes and let it carry you. In your dream, the fire never dies. The woodpile is full. The snow stays outside. Your children sleep soundly and no one coughs. You don't dream of spring, not yet. You dream only of surviving one more night. And tonight you will. You wake to warmth, not the kind you remember from summer sun or heavy wool layers, but something softer, subtler. It's the fire still burning, still alive. A low red heart beating in the ashes. It stayed with you through the night. And that feels like a victory. You lie still for a moment, savoring the rare sensation. The air is still cold, your breath still fogs, but it doesn't bite. Not yet. The children are curled around one another like kittens' cheeks flushed from sleep. Your wife is still asleep too, her hand resting against the side of the pot you left beside the fire to thaw. It must have worked. No ice crusted around the rim. You slip from under the blanket, carefully pulling your cloak close. The coals respond to your stirring. You add a few dry sticks one at a time, and the flames grow stronger, licking their way up toward the smoke hole in the roof. You're careful not to use too much wood. You know better now. One log now is one log you won't have later. Every choice in winter is a trade. You warm your hands and crouch near the hearth, soaking in the glow, thinking about food. Always food. Yesterday's soup was the last of the beans. There's still barley flour, a turnip, some garlic, and that braid of herbs you hung near the door last autumn. Enough to make something, but not enough to feel safe. You pull the remaining supplies into view, laying them out one by one on the table. Your wife joins you, bleary-eyed but clear-minded. Together you begin planning. She slices the turnip thin, lays the slices out to dry over the fire. Not to eat today, to save for next week. You mix the flour into a stiff dough, adding water, salt, and garlic. You knead it slowly, pressing your worries into the dough with every movement. She speaks only once, running her fingers over the garlic bulbs. It's early for this, she says. Too early to be this low. You nod. She's right. Winter came fast this year. Harder, colder, hungrier. And you're already burning what you hoped would last another month. You bake the flatbreads on the hot stones beside the hearth. They puff slightly, hissing at the edges, garlic blistering on the surface. The smell alone is enough to wake the children. They sit up slowly, rubbing their eyes, noses red from the cold. You hand each one a piece of bread still hot from the stone. No butter, no cheese, but warm, soft, and spiced. It feels indulgent. You eat your share, slowly chewing with care, letting each bite rest on your tongue. This is the good part of the day. The fire is strong. The bread is fresh. The sky outside, though pale and gray, doesn't look angry. Yet, after the meal, your eldest helps you fetch snow from the drift outside. You melt it over the fire, straining it through cloth again and again. It's tedious, but clean water keeps you from falling ill, and illness is worse than hunger. Illness is the first knock at the door of death. Your wife hums while she stitches a torn seam in your daughter's boot. She keeps her hands busy always. You've seen her pull warmth from scraps, comfort from nothing. Her voice is soft, the same tune she sang last night. The children are drawing in the ash with bits of burned wood. Circles, animals, a stick figure with long hair and a big belly. "Is that me?" she asks, and they all laugh. The day is quiet, and you take that as a blessing. No visits, no knocks, no emergencies, just chores. You fix a broken rung in the stool. You scrape the last wax from an old candle melted into a tin with a scrap of cloth for a wick. You boil the hearthstones in water to clean them, one of your father's old habits. At mid-afternoon, the wind picks up again, rattling the shutter. You glance toward the woodpile. Still enough for a few more days. Maybe 4. 5 if you're careful. You put the children to work stuffing extra rags into the gaps in the walls. They do it gladly, their hands now more nimble than yours. Your wife finishes her sewing and begins soaking the herb braid. Tonight's meal will be broth again, but flavored fragrant, something that feels alive. You remember when winter food meant smoked pork, dried pears, thick loaves of honeyed bread, stored apples. But that was a story told by someone else. A different time, a different class. For you, winter means steam and thinness and gratitude for anything that doesn't kill. The broth smells stronger than usual as it simmers. The herbs, sage, wild onion, thyme, fill the air with something that feels almost like spring. You don't ask how much is left. You know she used too much. But you also know why. You all sit together in the firelight to eat. The children slurp greedily, lips stained green from the herbs. Your wife closes her eyes for a moment, while she swallows like she's memorizing the warmth. You eat slowly, savoring the tang of garlic, the woodsy scent of thyme. It tastes better than it has any right to, like medicine and comfort and memory all at once. After dinner, you read aloud from a scrap of parchment you keep tucked in the rafters, a passage from an old psalm written by your grandfather before his eyes went. The children sit close, listening even if they don't understand all the words. You talk softly after that, about the coming freeze, about the merchant who may pass through in a week's time, about maybe trading a basket or boots for eggs or grain, about maybe surviving this winter a little better than the last. You go to bed early, not because you're tired, but because sleep is the only time you don't feel cold. You huddle together, wrapped in the same old blanket, pressed close to the fire's last glow. And when you dream, it's not of summer, it's of bread. Hot, soft enough to fill every hand at the table. And in that dream, no one wakes from hunger. Not tonight. Morning arrives without fanfare, just a gray dimness pressing against the shutter, and the stiff ache in your spine that tells you it's time to move again. You stretch slowly, careful not to wake the little ones still nestled under the blanket. Their cheeks are flushed, their limbs wound together, chasing the last threads of warmth from the fire that's long since died. You rise quietly. The floor is colder than you remember. Each step across the packed dirt bites at your feet, even through the cracked leather of your boots. Your breath clouds in front of you, hanging in the air like a ghost. You crouch near the hearth, brushing aside ash and coals with a stick, hopeful. A flicker, one spark hiding in the gray. You smile faintly. That's all you need. You coax it slowly. Straw pine needles, a twist of cloth. You breathe life into it. Soon the flames curl up again, pale and yellow, a whisper of heat rather than a roar. But it's enough to melt the frost from your fingers. The rest of the household begins to stir. Your wife rolls over first, pulling the blanket tighter, before sitting upright and rubbing her eyes. The children blink in the dim light. Hair-tangled noses red from the chill. No one speaks right away. Words come after fire, after water, after the first mouthful of something warm. You melt snow in the cooking pot. The morning's meal is a weak porridge made from barley flour, thinned with water and thickened with a pinch of salt and crushed mint. The children don't complain. They sit near the fire, steaming bowls cradled in their hands like treasures. Your wife adds one last sliver of dried apple to the pot, a gift from the merchant trade weeks ago. You each get a piece soft and sweet. The taste is faint, but it transports you. Back to warmer days. Back to sun and trees heavy with fruit. It lasts no more than a few bites, but it lingers longer in the memory. After the meal, your wife wraps her cloak and sets to mending the children's mittens. Hands grow fast, and fabric wears thin. You gather the snow-wet logs from last night and restack them by the hearth. The pile has dwindled. You count quietly 7 large pieces, 9 small, some twigs. 2 days, maybe 3 if you're sparing. You'll have to venture out again. You turn toward your son and motion for him to get ready. He's old enough now to help with the gathering. His boots are too tight, his cloak too short, but he stands proudly. He wants to be useful. You pack a small sack with a handful of bread and a wedge of frozen root. Not for lunch, just in case. You sling the axe over your shoulder, and together the two of you head into the white. The forest is quiet. Still, snow hangs heavy on the branches, and every step is a crunch through frost and frozen leaf. You move slowly, watching for signs of game, of fallen wood, of danger. Every sound feels louder in the winter silence. You find a copse of birch trees with fallen limbs beneath them, dry enough if you're careful. You and your son work together, chopping, dragging, stacking. His hands shake as he lifts the branches. You give him your gloves. Your fingers sting in the cold, but you don't say a word. By midday, you've gathered enough for a few more nights. Not plenty, but enough. You stop beneath a pine, share the heel of bread. It's hard, crumbly, but the boy eats like it's roast meat. He asks no questions. You nod once, proud of his quiet strength. You return to the hut, tired but satisfied. Your wife greets you with a warm pot, already hanging near the fire water, scented with onion peel and crushed herbs. No real food, but enough to wrap around your lungs and trick your stomach. You split the firewood into pieces, by the door, stacking it neatly. The snow begins again, tiny flakes, at first barely visible, then heavier. You hurry to seal the shutter and sweep the floor before nightfall. Dinner is better than expected. Your wife scraped the last of the turnip peel into a mash, flavored it with wild thyme and garlic. There's a richness in it that you can't explain. Maybe it's the memory of meals past. Maybe it's the warmth. Maybe it's just being fed. Afterward, you gather close again. The fire burns brighter tonight, casting golden light against the soot-dark walls. Your daughter brings over a doll made from straw and scraps. She plays quietly, humming the song your wife always sings. Your son helps polish the metal blade of your axe, his hands small but steady. You take your wife's hand for a moment. She squeezes yours, and neither of you says anything. There's nothing new to say, but the silence is full shared. Later, when the children sleep, you lie awake for a time. Not from worry, from thinking, from counting what's left, from planning the next day. You know the snow will bury the fields by morning. You know the roof needs patching again. You know that you'll have to stretch the food farther than you thought. But tonight, the fire held. The soup filled the bowl. The children are warm, and that in the world you live in is enough. You close your eyes and dream of something small, a green shoot breaking through the frost. Just one. Just enough. The dream fades before you can name it. All that remains is the feeling a green stalk, wet earth, a faint breeze. Then it's gone, swallowed by the cold air that seeps in through the thatch and nudges you back to consciousness. You lie still for a moment, eyes open, listening. The fire is still breathing a soft crackle, a warm pulse. That's something. You rise quietly, trying not to wake the others. The children are bundled together like coals under a blanket, faces flushed, mouths slightly open. Your wife is lying nearest the hearth, one hand outstretched toward the heat, as if she'd fallen asleep mid-prayer. You reach for a stick of wood from the pile and ease it onto the coals. It catches quickly. The light spills across the floor in ripples. You kneel beside the fire and let your hands hover above it, palms open, fingers spread wide. The chill begins to retreat slowly from your bones. You breathe deeply, drawing in the sharp scent of smoke and dried herb. Somewhere in the mix, you still smell last night's soup onion and thyme and the ghost of turnip. You melt snow in the pot, adding a pinch of dried mint and a few grains of salt. Not a meal, just warm water. But it gives the body something to hold on to, something to work with. Your wife stirs, then joins you, cloak wrapped tightly around her shoulders. You pass her the steaming cup. She takes it without speaking, eyes still half-lidded, and sips slowly. You both sit there in silence, watching the fire, listening to the wind scratch against the shutters like a restless dog. When the children rise, they do so without complaint. That's one of winter's quiet victories. It teaches resilience early. You feed them warm water with softened bread crusts cut into chunks and steeped like dumplings. It's not enough, but it's something. They slurp it down eagerly, cheeks pink from the heat. You check the wood pile, still half full. Enough for 3 nights, maybe 4. But only if the wind stays mild. You know better than to trust it. Today is a repair day. The snow is too deep for travel, and your body aches from yesterday's foraging. So you stay inside working on what you can. The roof patch needs reinforcing. You mix a slurry of clay and straw, then climb up through the loft, careful not to disturb the brittle beams. The wind whistles through tiny gaps. You smear the mix into the cracks with your hands, the cold making your fingers clumsy and slow. Below, your wife sharpens the carving knife and slices the last turnip into slivers, laying them on cloth near the fire to dry. The children play with pebbles and twine, making up quiet games that require no words and no space. Laughter is rare now, but they still find it in odd places, like when one of them sneezes so loudly it echoes off the rafters and makes your wife jump. You laugh too for the first time in days. By mid-morning, the snow has softened slightly. You and your son decide to risk a walk to the edge of the wood. Not for firewood this time, but to check the traps. You set them last week, simple snares made of twine and bent saplings. You didn't expect much. Winter is cruel to animals too. But when you reach the third trap, you find it triggered. And there, nestled in the snow, is a rabbit, small but whole. Your son's eyes widen. He reaches for it, reverent. You place a hand on his shoulder and nod. Together you cradle it back home like a secret. Your wife's face shifts when she sees it. Shock, then disbelief, then silent gratitude. She doesn't waste a moment. The rabbit is cleaned, skinned, and hung within the hour. The skin will dry by the hearth. The bones will go into stock. The meat, small as it is, will be the center of tonight's supper. All day, the scent of rabbit fills the hut. You boil it with a sprig of wild rosemary and a handful of barley. The children keep hovering by the pot noses, twitching eyes wide. Even you are tempted to taste it early to sneak a piece of meat before it's time. But you wait. You always wait. When night comes, the stew is ready. You serve it in careful portions, bones, and all meat soft enough to fall apart with a spoon. The taste is almost too rich. After days of herbs and root mash and broth, it's overwhelming, fatty, savory, real. The children don't talk. They just eat. And when their bowls are empty, they scrape the edges and lick their fingers. You save the bones. Tomorrow they'll be boiled again twice until they give up every last bit of marrow. But tonight you rest in the warmth of that meal. You rest in the memory of catching the rabbit, in the sound of your son laughing softly as he retells the story. Later, you sit near the fire with your wife. She's stitching a patch into the blanket, reinforcing the corners that fray from constant use. You sharpen your axe slowly, with a steady rhythm that soothes you. It's not just about the tool. It's about being ready. Always. The snow thickens outside. The wind howls louder. But the fire burns strong. The roof holds. Your stomach is full. You go to sleep with the taste of meat still on your tongue, and dream of traps that never come back empty. You wake to a strange quiet, not the dead stillness of snow-heavy mornings, but a quieter quiet, a kind of peace. For a moment, you don't move. You lie beneath the heavy patchwork blanket, warmth trapped around your body, your wife's arm resting lightly across your chest, the children pressed together like a string of sleeping dogs near the hearth. You listen, really listen, and realize the wind has died. No scratching at the walls, no groaning from the rafters, just the subtle hiss of the fire and the occasional creak of settling wood. You ease out from under the blanket, careful not to wake anyone. The fire's still burning, just barely, the coals rich and red beneath a crust of ash. You feed it a single stick, then another. It flares up quickly in the stillness, grateful for the attention. You warm your hands and then melt snow in the pot, rinsing yesterday's rabbit bones and dropping them into the water with a few flakes of barley and crushed herbs. By the time your wife stirs, the broth has already begun to simmer. She breathes in the scent and smiles, not the forced, weary curve of the mouth you've both worn for weeks, but something real. "It's a good smell to wake up to," she whispers. You both sit quietly, warming your hands over the pot, listening to the occasional stirrings of the children as the scent slowly wakes them too. One by one they rise. No complaints this morning. No dragging feet. Just wide eyes, eager hands, bowls held forward. You serve the broth hot, careful not to waste a drop. It's rich from the bones, heavier than the usual fare. Even the littlest one eats slowly today, savoring it. You all do. The rabbit meat is long gone, but its ghost lingers in the broth, softening the barley, seasoning the memory. After breakfast, you step outside. The snow has stopped. And more than that, the sky, gray and flat for days, is beginning to crack open at the edges. Not blue yet, Not clear, but lighter. You tilt your head and watch a thin band of pale sunlight creep across the treetops. You blink against the brightness. It's almost painful, but it makes your heart rise in your chest. You call your son and motion for him to bring the basket. It's time to gather kindling. Not because you're desperate, but because it's habit. Because winter hasn't finished yet. The lull is just that, a lull. You don't trust it. You never do. The two of you walk through the snow together, the crunch underfoot softer now. The forest looks different in the light, less like a graveyard, more like something merely sleeping. You gather fallen pine branches, twisted bark twigs from beneath the firs. The snow glistens on the branches, and a crow calls in the distance. "Do you think it's almost over?" your son asks. You pause before answering. You don't want to lie, but you don't want to steal the hope from his voice either. "Not yet," you say. "But we're through the worst." He nods. That's enough. You return home with full arms. Your wife has cleaned the hearth and prepared the dough for flatbread. She found a single egg tucked under one of the hens, cold but intact. A gift. She's added it to the dough along with a pinch of salt. The fire is hotter than it's been in days. The flatbreads cook quickly, puffing slightly as they sizzle on the hot stone. Lunch is simple. Just the bread, warm and chewy, served with a dipping broth made from the morning's pot. You all sit together near the fire bowls in laps, heads bowed over the food. It's not silence out of solemnity, it's reverence. This is the kind of meal you remember for a long time, not because it's grand, but because it feels earned. Afterward, the children gather pine cones for kindling. Your wife mends the cloak that's been growing a hole at the shoulder for weeks. You take a moment for something rare stillness. You sit beside the fire with a scrap of wood and your carving knife. No purpose, just motion. You shape it slowly, letting the curls fall to the floor, your mind blank for the first time in days. The rhythm calms you. The fire hums. Outside, the wind is still. When the carving begins to take shape, your daughter notices. "What is it?" she asks. "Maybe a bird," you say. "Maybe a bear. It'll tell me when it's ready." She smiles and sits beside you watching. Her hands wrap around her knees, her chin rests on them. She doesn't say another word, but she doesn't leave either. That night, your wife prepares the last of the stored garlic and root mash for dinner, spicing it with rosemary and a splash of the vinegar you bartered for a month ago. You eat slowly again, letting each bite linger. You add a sliver of flatbread to soak up the broth. Afterward, the children sit together whispering a story they've made up. It involves a rabbit king and a bread dragon and a pot of magical soup that never runs dry. You and your wife just listen, grinning quietly in the firelight. Later, you tuck the children into the straw bed and throw another log onto the fire. You sit close to your wife, shoulder to shoulder, watching the flames dance. It may snow again tomorrow. The wind may rise. The wood may run low. But tonight, for the first time in a long while, the cold doesn't feel like it's winning. You drift to sleep, thinking of a carving in your hand, warm bread in your belly, and a sky that just might be turning blue. You wake to the sound of dripping. At first it's distant, almost imagined, but then it comes again, soft, rhythmic, persistent. You blink, still curled in the blanket, your face half buried in warmth. The fire has burned low, and the light in the room is different. Not gray, not the flat, leaden shade of snow and overcast skies, but something gentler, warmer. You lift your head and look toward the shutter. It's light outside. You rise slowly, heart fluttering. The sound grows clearer as you move toward the door. A trickle of water down the wall. A splash into the basin by the eaves. Melt. Snow melt. You unbolt the door and step outside into a world that has changed. The snow is soft now, sagging at the edges, slumped in mounds. The air is still sharp, but not biting. The sun, weak, watery, shy, has broken through the clouds. It rests low in the sky, but golden light pools on the trees, glinting from icicles, dappling the frozen ruts in the patel. You haven't seen sunlight in days, maybe weeks. You step into it like it might vanish if you move too quickly. You tilt your head back, eyes closed, and feel the warmth touch your skin. Your breath fogs less. Your cloak doesn't cling with frost. You smile without meaning to. Back inside, your wife is already stirring her eyes, blinking against the light filtering through the shutter slats. She sits up and lets out a slow breath. "It's breaking," she says. You nod. That's all you need to say. The children wake quickly today. Their feet thump against the dirt floor as they shuffle toward the fire. There's excitement in their voices now, not just hunger. They sense it too, that the season is shifting. Breakfast is plain as always, barley mash thinned with water, flavored with the last pinch of herbs. But it feels different. The fire burns hotter now with less wood. The sunlight helps. It turns the room golden, makes the steam from the pot rise like incense. After breakfast, you decide to walk to the stream. You haven't been there since the first snow. It's a risk. The path may still be treacherous, the water frozen, but something in you needs to see it. Your son begs to come along. You agree. He's been trapped indoors too long. You walk slowly, boots crunching through slush and patches of crusted snow. The trees drip like they're weeping, long icicles snapping off in soft, wet thuds. You pass a dead squirrel half buried in the snow. You say a silent prayer for it and keep walking. The stream is not fully thawed, but it's moving just a little. Water slides beneath a crust of ice, clear and cold. You crouch and press your fingers to the edge. Liquid. Real water. Not melted snow. Not boiled slush. But moving, running water. You fill the flask, letting it overflow once, then twice, just to hear the sound. Your son laughs. The sound makes you laugh too. On the way back, you find wild mint peeking up near a tree root, its leaves stubbornly green beneath the frost. Your wife will know what to do with it. When you return, she has already begun cleaning the hearth. The smoke hole is scraped clean, the floor swept, the straw, bedding shaken out. She pauses only to greet you with a smile when you show her the water. Then she sets to boiling it, real boiling, not melting, and steeps the dried herbs she's been saving in a cloth bag for weeks. The smell fills the hut, bright, sharp, alive. You drink together. It burns slightly on the way down, but it tastes of possibility. The children play outside in the slush, slipping and sliding, squealing. Their boots come back soaked, but no one complains. You set their wet clothes near the fire and let them steam. You and your wife begin to plan. It's too soon to sow anything, but the soil must be prepared. You'll need to check the tools, sharpen the hoe, mend, the rake handle, oil, the cartwheels. You'll need more seed grain, which means another visit to the manor steward, which means another week of barter and negotiation. But none of that feels heavy now. Not today. Lunch is stew again, stretched from yesterday's broth. You crumble flatbread into it, letting it thicken with flour and salt. It fills the hut with warmth. Everyone eats seconds. The pot is scraped clean. No one feels guilty. In the afternoon, your wife checks the hen coop. 1 egg. She brings it in like a prize wrapped in cloth. The children clap. You put it in the basket near the fire, not for today, not even for tomorrow. You'll save it. Maybe for planting day. Maybe for sickness. Maybe just in case. Later you rest. Not because you're exhausted, but because you can. You sit on the bench near the fire, sharpening your blade with long, deliberate strokes. Your wife braids cord. The children nap in a pile. The world outside is quiet, but not the same cold quiet from before. This quiet has birdsong hidden in it. It has dripping icicles and soft soil shoot beneath the snow. You don't say it out loud, but you both feel it. The worst may be over, not done, not gone, but past about the halfway mark. You fall asleep that night with the strange sensation of your hands being warm and dry. You dream of fields, not golden yet, but ready, and when you wake, the snow has shrunk again. By the time you open your eyes, you already know something has shifted again. The way the air moves, the way the sunlight falls on the wall, it feels lighter, softer. There's birdsong now, faint but real, threading through the shutter slats like a whispered invitation. You sit up slowly, the stiffness in your back less sharp than usual. Maybe it's the warming weather. Maybe it's just hope settling deeper into your bones. The fire still glows in the hearth. The coals held through the night, and that's enough to bring a smile to your face. You add a log, one of the last larger ones in the pile, and watch the flames rise without a struggle. You stretch your legs beside the fire, hands wrapped around your knees, watching the steam curl from the morning pot of water. Your wife is already awake, whispering a song under her breath as she works a lump of dough into a flat round. She adds a splash of oil rendered weeks ago from stored sheep fat and sprinkles in the last pinch of salt. No herbs today, but the dough is soft and smells like warmth. The children stir, blinking in the growing daylight, noses red, but smiles already playing at the corners of their mouths. You serve breakfast together, hot flatbread, and steaming water laced with a touch of vinegar for flavor. The bread is crisp around the edges, soft in the middle, and vanishes faster than it cools. The children eat hungrily, but with the manner of those who've known hunger. They chew slowly, savoring. No crumbs are wasted. Outside, the snow has slumped into wet banks, gray and grainy, with patches of earth beginning to show through. You pull on your boots, cracked and misshapen, but still holding together, and step into the slush. The barn creaks as you open it. The tools are just where you left them, a hoe with a splintered handle, a rake missing 2 teeth, the cart leaning slightly to one side. You begin your repairs. The handle takes time, stripping the splinters, sanding the wood smooth with a stone, binding it tight with leather from an old belt. The work warms you in a way no fire can. Your son joins you after finishing his chores, and together you go over each tool, checking for rust cracks, weak joints. His hands are steadier than they used to be. He's learning. Your wife tends to the chickens. 3 eggs today. One of the hens is still thin, but she clucks with purpose as your wife scatters feed and gathers straw. She comes back inside, smiling cheeks flushed with effort and cold. The eggs are set aside carefully. Not for now. For later. Always for later. By midday, the sun breaks through in full. Real sun. Not filtered, not fleeting. It floods the hut with a kind of brightness you'd forgotten existed. You open the door wide and let it pour across the floor. The children lie in the light like cats, laughing as they kick off their boots and stretch into the warmth. You strip off your cloak and sit on the bench by the wall, hands open in your lap. The sunlight touches your skin and you close your eyes. For just a moment, you're not in winter anymore. You're not measuring wood or counting root vegetables or sharpening tools. You're just breathing. You share lunch, a boiled mash of barley and dried herbs spiked with a spoon of lard. Simple but hot. Satisfying. The fire burns lower now, less desperate. You don't need to feed it as often. The walls are holding. The air is still. In the afternoon, your wife begins sewing again. She's piecing together scraps of fabric, old shirts, worn leggings into something new. A tunic, maybe, or another blanket. You don't ask. You trust her work. The children take turns pounding grain, singing to keep time. Their voices echo off the walls, strange and sweet. You carve another shape into a stick of birch, this one a horse, rough and sturdy like the one you used to have before the illness took it. Later, your neighbor Bran visits. He's thinner, his cough rougher, but he brings good news. The steward has begun distributing seed grain in preparation for planting. He traded a woolen scarf for a sack of barley seed. You invite him in, offer him warm water and a seat by the fire. He rests quietly, his eyes watching the children with something like longing. You trade him a flatbread for a small pouch of dried mushrooms he foraged before the last freeze. You shake hands, not out of ceremony, but habit. In times like these, gestures matter more than gold. That evening, your wife uses the mushrooms in the pot. The stew smells richer than it should. You close your eyes as you eat, chewing slowly, letting each flavor bloom on your tongue. The children are full. The fire is strong. Your belly is warm. It feels almost abundant. After dinner, your wife sings again, and this time the children join in. They don't know all the words, but it doesn't matter. The melody fills the room, weaving between the beams, into the corners, into the spaces where cold once lived. You sit by the door looking out at the slush-softened world, and you wonder how many more nights winter still holds. Not many, maybe, or maybe more than you can count. But for now, you've survived. You've survived the hardest stretch. You've built warmth from scraps. You've made light from ash. And somehow, in the quiet hum of an early spring sun, you've found a way to rest. The thaw continues, though slowly. You can feel it in your joints before you see it, less stiffness in your knees. When you rise, less ache in your back when you bend. The hut smells different now, too, less of smoke and sweat, more of damp earth and wet wood. Change is creeping in from the corners like green shoots threading through a blanket of snow. You begin the day the same as always, stirring the fire boiling, snow melt softening hard bread in water. But the mood is lighter. The children wake on their own, no prodding needed. Your wife is humming again, the tune dancing above the soft hiss of the pot. Breakfast is thin porridge with crushed dried berries, only a handful saved from autumn. But they turn the color pink and bring smiles to the children's faces. Your wife presses a bit to her lips and raises her eyebrows in mock surprise. Tastes like summer, she whispers, and the children giggle. You step outside after breakfast and find the yard mostly clear now. Patches of earth have reappeared, black, rich, soft to the touch. The air has shifted from cutting to crisp, like it's letting you breathe deeper. Somewhere in the distance, you hear the creak of a wagon and the low call of a neighbor's voice. Life is returning. You spend the morning checking the fences. Some have collapsed under the weight of snow, others lean like drunk men. You mark which ones can be salvaged, which posts need replacing. You'll need wood, not firewood this time, but strong living wood for building. That comes next. Always something next. When you return, your wife is kneading dough again. She's using more flour now, letting the bread rise near the fire instead of rushing it flat. The smell is heavier, richer. You smile. She shrugs. It won't last if we don't use it, she says. But you both know it's more than that. It's a reward for surviving. Lunch is a celebration, even if no one says it aloud. The bread is golden and crisp at the edges, soft inside. The stew has barley and mushroom and a dash of vinegar. The children eat quietly, eyes closed, mouths full. It's not gluttony, it's reverence. After the meal, you and your son head to the stream again. The water runs faster now, cutting channels through the slush. You fill buckets and wash cloths, shaking out the dust and soot of winter. Your son dips his hands into the current and laughs at the cold. It's the first time you've heard him laugh like that since the first snow. On the walk back, you spot green, not imagined, not mistaken. A true stubborn green, the curled tip of a nettle leaf pushing through the mud beside a stone. You crouch and press your palm to it. The leaf is tender soft. You pluck a few carefully and tuck them into your pouch. That evening, your wife brews tea from the nettles. It's sharp and grassy bitter at first, but strangely comforting. You sip slowly while the children work on their game near the fire, their laughter filling the room like music. The tea makes you feel warm from the inside, deeper than the fire ever could. The hut feels different tonight. Not because anything's changed, but because everything has. You sit near the door, sharpening your blade again. Your wife works beside you, repairing a torn hem with quick, practiced fingers. You speak softly about spring, about planting, about the market, day that will come, about the goat you might trade for if the price is fair. There's no fear in your voices now, no desperation, just planning. That night, you tuck the children in close. The fire burns low but steady. You don't need it to roar anymore. It's enough that it lives. Before sleep, you trace your hand over the wooden carving you've been shaping all winter. It started as a bear, became a bird, and then something else entirely. It's neither useful nor beautiful, but it's yours, a record of the time that passed. You set it on the mantel, a symbol of hunger endured, of cold overcome, of a winter that did not break you. And you sleep that night not with the fear of what may come, but with the quiet peace of knowing what already has. You wake to birdsong, not just one, but several different pitches, different rhythms, a chorus building in the branches outside. You lie there for a moment, eyes still closed, letting the sounds wrap around you like a warm shawl. The birds have returned. That alone is enough to shift something deep in your chest. When you rise, the light filtering through the shutter is no longer gray, but gold. The air still holds a chill, but it's different now, like the last breath of a guest who's overstayed his welcome. Winter is packing its bags, grumbling, lingering at the door. But you know it's leaving. You feel it in your bones. Your wife is already tending the fire. She moves easily now, no longer hunched with cold. The hearth glows, the kettle hums, and the scent of barley and dried nettle leaves drifts through the hut. You press a kiss to her shoulder in passing. She doesn't startle. She's gotten used to this peace. Breakfast is thick porridge with a splash of oil and the last of the crushed berries stirred in. The children eat quickly, already fidgeting with their boots and cloaks, eager to go outside. You let them. The yard is soft beneath the snow, now patches of earth, swelling upward with promise. After breakfast, you pack a small satchel with tools. Today is the first real workday of the coming season. Not mending or foraging or survival, but preparation. Hope made physical. You walk to the edge of your field boots, squelching in the thawing mud. The soil is darker than you remember, and you kneel to press your fingers into it. It's still too wet to till, but not for long. You mark the space with sticks pacing the edges, drawing the rows in your mind. You imagine the seeds dropping into place, the roots threading downward, the green shoots rising. The harvest is far off, but this moment feels just as important. Maybe more so. You return home before midday, cheeks red, stomach rumbling. Your wife has made soup, onion peel, garlic scrap, barley, and a few shavings of cured fat saved in waxed cloth. It's rich and thick and tastes like gratitude. You share a hunk of fresh flatbread between you, tearing it by hand, dipping it into the broth, soaking up every drop. After lunch, the children help sort seed sacks. You count and recount the barley kernels, the few peas, the handful of flax. Each one is precious, a gamble wrapped in potential. Your wife inspects the burlap sacks, mending weak seams with quick, sure stitches. There's a rhythm to it all now, a return to order, to the rituals of life instead of mere survival. The afternoon light stretches long and golden. You take advantage of it, oiling the rake handle, checking the cart wheels, sanding rough edges. You repair the coop's door, reinforcing it with iron nails traded months ago. The hens cluck lazily, no longer huddled for warmth. 3 eggs today. That's enough for cake if you had sugar. But even without it, your wife will find a way. Before dinner, your daughter finds a sprig of green tucked against the side of the hut. A weed, maybe, but alive. She brings it inside with cupped hands and shows it to everyone like a treasure. Your wife plants it in a broken bowl with a bit of soil. It sits near the window now, catching the last rays of the day. Dinner is the same soup reheated with added water, served with leftover bread. It's not luxurious, but it's plentiful. And for the first time in weeks, there are leftovers. That night you light a candle, not because you need to, but because you can. The flickering light fills the room with a soft glow. Your wife braids your daughter's hair, while your son carves a new figure beside you, a man with a hoe and a broad-brimmed hat. He says it's you. You laugh, and it feels good to hear yourself. Later, when the children sleep, you and your wife sit near the fire, hands touching lightly. You talk about the market day to come, the possibility of trading eggs for new boots, the hope of a late spring festival in the village square. These are not dreams now. They're plans. The fire burns low, but the room is warm. Outside, the birds continue to sing into the night. And inside, with a full belly, sore hands, and soil beneath your nails, you sleep not like a man preparing for hardship, but like one waiting for seeds to grow. The days stretch longer now. You feel it first, not in the sky, but in your body. You wake before the sun, and it's already light. The fire, once your lifeline through the endless nights, now needs only modest tending. 1 log in the morning, 2 at night. The hearth has become companion, not savior. Today you begin clearing the field in earnest. The frost has released its grip, and the soil has softened just enough. You shoulder your tools, hoe, rake, spade, and step into the yard. Your son follows, carrying the seed sack a little too proudly. It's still light, too light, but it will carry life soon enough. The earth gives way under the spade with a wet sigh. Rich, dark, clinging to your boots. You breathe it in, the smell of rot and rain and buried promise. This is the first true work of spring, the opening of the ground, the welcoming of seeds. Each slice of the spade is a prayer, each turned clump a whisper to the sun. Your son watches, then copies you. His rhythm is off his grip, clumsy, but he learns quickly. You don't correct him much. The soil teaches better than words. Back at the hut, your wife bakes. Not flatbread this time, but something softer, rising with a bit of leftover yeast from the bottom of the vinegar jar. She adds a pinch of dried herbs and cracks 2 of the precious eggs into the dough. It feels extravagant. You let it happen. When the bread emerges from the coals, it's golden and fragrant, with a crust that cracks under your thumb. You eat it with onion soup and feel for the first time in months full. The children smear theirs with lard and pretend it's butter. You don't stop them. Let them dream with their mouths full. The afternoon is spent checking the bee skeps. One hive survived the winter. Just one. But that's enough. You watch the sleepy bees drag themselves into the pale air, their bodies fuzzy with life. They'll be slow at first, but they'll find the flowers. They always do. Your wife takes a scrap of wax and softens it near the fire. She'll use it to seal the jars once there's something to preserve. It's early yet, but you speak of strawberries, of mushrooms in the woods, of wild garlic. The children help clean the water barrel, scraping out the algae, polishing the inside with sand and ash. They giggle as they work, splashing water on each other, flicking foam onto the dog, who's only just begun to venture outside again after his winter stupor. That night, you sit together under the stars. The children curl under a blanket with their mother. You sit with your back to the wall, a cup of weak mead in your hand, brewed last season, long forgotten now, tasting of sour apples and dusk. You sip it slowly, letting the firelight flicker across your boots. A fox yips in the distance. Somewhere beyond the tree line, another peasant beats his field with a stick, calling out the moles. You laugh softly. Spring makes fools of everyone. You speak with your wife about the past season, not with fear, but with reverence. You survived, and not just barely. You endured. You endured the dark, the hunger, the snow that never stopped falling. You endured the silence that sat heavy on your chest, the cold that tried to steal your breath. You made it through. Your wife takes your hand. Her fingers are calloused dry at the knuckles, but warm. She doesn't need to say anything. The look in her eyes is enough. Later, when the fire has burned down and the children are asleep, you sit alone for a while. You think of all the things you didn't lose. The hut still stands. The tools still work. The bees still fly. Your hands still know the rhythm of the earth. And tomorrow, there will be more to plant. Not just seeds, but hope. Tiny and stubborn, buried deep, waiting for the sun. The days have taken on a rhythm again. You rise with the light, not the cold, and you don't have to fight your own body to stand. The fire is more a habit now than a necessity. You tend it lightly, coaxing it from last night's embers, then set the kettle for water without rushing. The sense of urgency has lifted like morning mist. Your wife moves about with renewed energy. There's color in her cheeks again, and she hums softly as she gathers eggs for this morning. She shakes her head in wonder as she returns, as if the hens too have remembered how to live. She cracks one carefully into a bowl, saves the others for market, and begins whisking together a batter for pancakes. She adds barley flour, a splash of goat's milk, and a handful of foraged mint. The smell fills the hut before the pan even hits the fire. The children wake to the scent and tumble from their bedding laughing. You plate each one a pancake, thin, hot, slightly crisp at the edges, and drizzle them with honey from the jar you'd nearly forgotten. Sticky fingers and delighted murmurs echo through the hut. No one says it aloud, but the luxury of sweetness does something to all of you. After breakfast, you head to the field again. The soil is ready now. You walk the rows barefoot for the first time this year, feeling the cool earth press up between your toes, grounding you. You carry a pouch of barley seed slung over one shoulder and begin to sow. Your hand moves in long, sweeping arcs. Seeds fall like breath. Each one lands with the promise of food. You glance at your son and motion for him to join. He walks the row beside you, mimicking your motion, scattering handfuls in wide loops. It's clumsy but earnest, and you don't correct him. Every field is different. Every hand has to find its rhythm. Your daughter watches from the edge, her basket filled with weed clippings and flower petals. She offers you a few violets, and you tuck one behind your ear with a wink. She beams. Later, your wife joins you, apron dusted and flower hair tied back with a strip of cloth. Together you kneel at the far end of the plot and begin the work of setting potatoes cut into pieces, each with an eye, each buried with hope. You move in silence. There is something sacred in the act, like prayer without words. By midday, your backs ache and your knees are stained with soil. You gather the children and sit beneath the old elm, passing around hunks of cheese and stale bread softened in warm water. The dog lies sprawled nearby, belly up in the sun, dreaming of foxes. After lunch, you venture into the woods. Spring has made itself known there too. Buds swell on branches. New shoots push through the leaf litter. You find mushrooms growing on a fallen log and nettles thick along a stream bed. You harvest carefully, leaving enough for the land to heal. The woods are not a storehouse, they're a gift. On the way back, you find a patch of wild garlic. Your wife crushes a leaf between her fingers, inhales deeply, and nods. You collect handfuls, wrapping them in a damp cloth to keep them fresh. Back home, the children are washing up at the stream, tossing pebbles and chasing frogs. Their laughter carries across the clearing. You and your wife begin supper mushroom stew with garlic, a pinch of salt, and barley to thicken it. The scent alone could call ghosts from their graves. You sit down to eat with sunburned faces and tired limbs. The food is hot, rich, filling. You tear off bits of bread to mop the bowl, then lean back and let the warmth settle inside you. Your daughter climbs into your lap, head resting on your shoulder. You feel her breathing slow, and you press a kiss to her hair. As the sun sets, the sky bleeds orange and violet. The fire crackles low in the hearth. You sharpen your hoe, then oil the spade, not out of fear this time, but readiness. Tomorrow will be another day of sowing, of sweat, of building toward harvest. The memory of winter is still there, but it no longer looms. You end the evening with a cup of herbal tea, the kind that tastes of spring rain and bitter roots. You sip it slowly, staring into the fire. Your wife lays a hand on your knee. No words, just presence. That's enough. The children sleep soundly tonight, limbs sprawled, breath deep. There is no huddle of desperation now, just the loose sprawl of comfort. They're not surviving anymore. They're living. Before you crawl into bed, you open the door and step outside. The stars are clear. The air is gentle. The fields are dark, but full of promise. And for the first time in a long while, the night does not feel like a threat. It feels like rest. The season has fully turned now. The mornings are still cool, yes, but not cruel. You rise before the sun and feel dew on your boots instead of frost. The light that slips through the shutter is golden, not gray. Outside, the sky stretches wide and pale, the trees buzz with new life, and the hut hums with a rhythm you almost forgot existed, one of work, not worry. You start your day, as always, by stirring the fire boiling, the water softening bread for the morning meal, but there's no sense of desperation behind it anymore. You're feeding your family now, not fighting off death. The children wake slowly and stretch like well-fed cats. Your wife hums as she kneads fresh dough, her hands confident and strong. Breakfast is simple but warm. Porridge thick with barley and sweetened with a bit of honey scraped from the last of the comb. The children chew with full mouths and wide eyes. The youngest spills her cup and giggles. No one scolds her. Today is planting day. You tie back your hair, roll your sleeves, and lift the heavy sack of seed grain with your son's help. He grunts, still growing into his strength, but he manages. Together you walk to the field. It's been fully tilled now, the rows neat, the earth loose and breathing. Your wife and daughter follow with baskets of cut potato garlic bulbs and sprigs of thyme to plant between the rows for flavor and luck. You begin the sowing steady and smooth. Every seed is placed by hand. You whisper to them not superstitious mutterings, but encouragements. You're not sure why. Maybe the soil listens. Maybe it always has. Your daughter plants thyme beside each row. She says it's to keep bad spirits away, but you think she just likes the smell. Your wife and son bury the garlic and potatoes, working side by side, murmuring softly to each other. As you work, the sun rises. The wind lifts your hair. The field becomes not a place of struggle, but of hope. You see it clearly now, every furrow a future meal, every row a declaration. We made it. At midday, you stop for lunch under the elm tree. Your wife passes out cold bread garlic spread and early greens from the forest. You sit in the sun, your back against the bark, your hands calloused but proud. The dog dozes nearby, belly round from scraps. After lunch, you begin building a scarecrow. Not because the birds are here yet, but because they will be, and because it feels good to build something. You use your oldest shirt a stick for the spine bundles of straw for limbs. The children name him Sir Scratchbeard and argue over what kind of hat he should wear. You give him your worn-out cap. He deserves it. The rest of the day is spent weaving fencing from green branches to protect the seedlings. It won't keep out deer, but it'll slow them. You and your son work quickly, efficiently, sweating under the afternoon sun. By the time the shadows grow long, the job is done. That night, your wife prepares a feast, not by noble standards, but by yours. Stew thick with mushrooms and garlic, dense bread with herbs, and to finish a small baked apple, each preserved from last harvest. You eat slowly, every bite a reward. After the meal, you sit outside, the air warm on your skin, watching the moon rise. Your wife leans against you. Your son carves another figure, this one of your scarecrow. Your daughter sings to herself a tune she's made up, drifting softly into the dusk. There are still hardships ahead. There will be blight. There will be drought. There will be days when the bread is thinner, the roof leaks, or the market cheats you out of fair trade. But not today. Today you are full. Today you are ready. And tonight, as you lie in bed, hand in hand with the woman who has weathered it all beside you, you close your eyes and breathe in the scent of earth, wood smoke, and lavender. The winter is gone. The seeds are in the soil. And everything is growing again, including you. You've made it to the end of our journey, through the frozen, frost-bitten struggle of a medieval peasant's winter. From bitter mornings huddled around a dying fire to the triumph of those first green shoots rising through thawed soil, you've lived their season of hardship, step by aching step. You didn't have down jackets or central heating or even proper boots. Your meals were more imagination than ingredients. Your nights long, dark, often silent save for the crackle of a fading ember or the howl of wind clawing through the thatch. And yet somehow, you survived. You mended tools with broken nails. You stirred soup from ghosts of ingredients. You found ways to laugh through numb lips, to love with cold hands, to hope when nothing around you hinted spring would ever come. But it did. It always does. And now the soil is soft. The mornings are gentle. The light stays longer, and the wind no longer sounds like hunger. You made it. You endured. Now let your body sink deeper into sleep. Let your breath grow slower. You've felt the cold, you've worked the earth, and now your mind deserves its own quiet thaw. Let the fire in your story fade to coals. Let the silence return, but this time a gentle welcome one. Close your eyes, dream of green fields and warm hands. You're safe now. The winter is over.